With great pleasure, I would like to still present these things out to you, who is ready to listen to whatever views I've got. I know that life is as smooth as the source of it somehow invented it to be. But when it comes to us human beings, we probably have a different approach all the way to these things. There are evil all around our lives. We choose to go the right way when we feel right about whatever opinions we may have. When we talk about religion and spiritual things, they are very much complicated issues. A man who stands to sort of represent spiritual issues, I can straightforward say has got spiritual abilities or hasn't got any spiritual abilities. If you haven't got spiritual abilities, then you obviously do not know what you are doing. Everything that you do will be based on assumption, and I'm sure we don't want to confront our God based on assumptions. I'm sure you don't want that, and I don't want that either. So for us to have a more solid base of approach to our religion, or our faith, to be very precise, I think it's best that we come to that understanding. Either we have the ability or we don't have the ability, and then we know what direction we're supposed to take. In all my encounters in life, I have come to that acceptance of believing that there is a spirit out there, a spirit within us, and a spirit out there somehow. I believe that we do exist, but somehow we exist as a result of the spirit that somehow grow out of the dust. It is strange. It's a miracle. It is weird, but somehow it is also very unique. You know, we see trees growing out of the ground, bearing an image. We will call it as tree. We see so many things that has, as a result of this very earth that we live, has been able to produce a lot of things, a lot of stuff that are considered to be resources of life. Now, life itself, we have not seen it somehow germinate out of the earth, but all of a sudden, we are supposed to believe that somehow we came out of the dust or the clay. That may be the case, but what called us out of that dust? The breath that came into us, or we were just formed out of it by the Spirit itself, taking the dust, and manifesting itself into this dust, or somehow making himself visible to live. But in every way, the Spirit inside you that has come as a result may very much understand his situation more than you do. But I'm still not very clear, I'm sure about that. But let me try to put it this way. It started from somewhere. But when it started, the very spirit that as a result became life, became alive, has produced and produced and produced and produced. And in every procreation that has gone on, I believe that it's also a bearing of a spirit at the same time. When a child is born, a spirit is born. That's how I am looking at it. That is more of a practical view from my point of view. When a child is born, a spirit is born. You don't think of it as if that child is we are coming from the same source as a result of the spirit that from the very beginning came out of wherever, nowhere that we know about at the moment. We don't know whether they came from the blue, they came from the dust, they came from whatever. Sorry, except what the books tell us. So clearly, something has come out of the blue, and we have come out of the blue. We are the generation that, as a result of whatever came out of the blue. And when they came out, they then procreate, and in their procreation, we have come out as a result of that. So they clearly are, as a result, coming from one end. I am a man at the same time, a spirit-made man, born out of an ancestor. That ancestor was the very beginning of my existence. And this so-called ancestor, I have lost track of that. I have no knowledge of it, whether it was one ancestor, it was more ancestors. But purely, it is clear that it was more ancestors, and we have blended together. There was black ancestors, separately different from the white skin ancestor, and we have a brown skin, and we have a Caucasian. They have all sort of skin colors were coming up. The looks of the Asian and all that came up. So somehow it is not acceptable for me, in my view, to accept the straightforward words of the Bible, which says in Adam and Eve was the only very creation that began life. It may have some significance as to what the story, or how the story begins, the what do you call it, the origin of life. But in its fullness of logic presentation, I don't think that Adam and Eve is as a result of all that we see before us. So Adam and Eve may be as a result of some group of people, maybe I'll say the Jews. That is why they and the spirit that gave birth to them, the very spirit from the very beginning, is now taking up his role of responsibility to sort of adapt and bring to himself his children or his family, his generation. That is what it is. The very spirit that transformed themselves into human beings and began to give birth, and in the spiritual sense, they sort of transformed themselves into physical human beings and sort of engage in sexual activities and procreated. Somehow there was this procreation going on. So it's within the same range, spirit, transforming themselves into physical human beings and becoming sexually involved physically, and as a result, they sort of begin to procreate human beings. Also at the same time, spirits. The human beings that was being born, they have spirit and they have the human flesh as well. So they are still the creation. So we are God's children at the same time, in spiritually and in physical sense. But the body dies off because the body was used to, as the spirit used the body to transform himself, to live, to become visible to the very eyes that we see today. I have a spirit within me that, as a result, is the birth or the child of somebody. Now, whether the spirit dies for another to take over the body, that is another complicated thing, which one cannot go deep into it. But whatever it is not easily convincing to think that the spirit can die, because we have no knowledge of that. I have no knowledge of that. Maybe it depends on what the spirit, the Bible might say, or other books might say. But the Bible clearly reveals that the spirits don't die, or the spirit hasn't died. It's nowhere that the spirit is revealed to have died. Even when we talk about Lucifer, whom the Bible describes as the embodiment of sin, who have sinned against God. Somehow, in so many years back, he is also a child born of God, and